Coverkillernation, a lot of you guys have wanted me to talk about this band for a long time. I've had a lot of people clamor for discographies. I've had a lot of people clamor for album reviews. I've had a lot of people clamor for an artist bio, similar to what I did with Metallica. However, it's time for me to finally speak on one of these bands, and it's time for me to start another discography series. One that hopefully I'll be able to get done amid the rest of my album review duties, along with the others that are going to be coming. The band that everybody wanted me to talk about, especially during Up the Irons week last August, was the band Megadeth. A lot of people wanted me to do a discography of Megadeth, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to start at the beginning, and I'm not going to start at the end. No, instead, I'm going to start this off with a bang, right smack dab in the middle. The album that I'm going to be speaking about today is not the first record. In fact, it's not even the second. Weirdly enough, it's not even the third. It's the fourth album in Megadeth's history, and that's the album Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace has held a lot of accolades throughout the years. It's widely considered to be one of the best thrash metal albums of all time. It's one of the main reasons why Megadeth is even widely considered to be at the top spot, the forefront of thrash metal. But why is this? Why is this album so good? Well, a lot of it has to do with the material, don't get me wrong, but part of it also has to do with the history involved. And what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to collide those two together. I'm going to give you guys a history lesson, and I'm also going to tell you exactly why this album is just as good as people crack it up to be. Yeah, this is going to be a fun journey. Let's turn back the clock. Let's go back to the past. Let's go back about 21 years. Let's remember our history, our metal history. The second wave of thrash is getting its legs. Bands like Forbidden's doing well. We have Onslaught doing well. Also, the first wave bands have just released some of their most classic releases within the past couple of years. We've had Rain and Blood by Slayer. We've had Master of Puppets by Metallica. However, there's something going on here. There's a paradox. Even though these albums are doing so well, even though these bands, these thrash metal bands, Metallica, Slayer, the members of the Big Four as they're called, are getting a lot of attention, even though they're getting a lot of hype, even though they're getting a lot of fans, they're still being overshadowed. They're being overshadowed by the popularity of another genre of quote-unquote metal. One that's debatable. Something that's been debated ever since it occurred by metal fans worldwide. And that's glam rock or glam metal, whatever you want to call it, arena rock, arena metal, whatever. Bands such as Poison, bands such as Warrant, bands such as, well, some people even consider Dokken. I consider that a little bit closer to metal, but that's just me splitting hairs. Stuff like that. So the second wave is going full force. However, it's dying down. Glam rock is starting to slowly die down. Why? Because of the rise of grunge. The rise of this Seattle-based alternative music entitled grunge. This lifestyle, this culture, this phenomenon that was really taking force with bands such as Nirvana, Soundgarden, Mother Love Bone. Megadeth comes out of the blue, refines their core lineup into what is widely considered to be the classic lineup for Megadeth, and goes to work on an album that's supposed to really wow us. I mean, So Far, So Good, So What was a damn good record. In fact, I think this is a record that's vastly underrated. And it's mainly because it comes right after Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, which is widely considered to be a metal classic, a legend. But they had to top this. They had to top So Far, So Good, which I really love. The review that I do on it will enhance that. So what did they craft? They craft Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace, an 8-track little idea. Something that really almost seems as though it has this difficult task to not only top their previous album, but also top the other albums that were coming out around that time frame, and try to divert attention away from grunge. Now, it didn't quite accomplish all of those tasks. It didn't divert the attention away from grunge, because as we know, grunge became a huge superpower in the early 1990s. However, it did perform its first two functions of really topping everything that came before it, and topping So Far, So Good, So What. Rust in Peace, in essence, blew both of those things away. This is an album where the mood is absolutely apocalyptic. This is an album that has riffs aplenty. This is an album where if you are a guitarist, if you're a guitar player, if you're a musician in general and you want to get into a metal band, if you want to get into a thrash metal band, if you haven't listened to Rust in Peace by Megadeth, you are missing the whole point. You're missing the whole reason to be in thrash metal. And some people may argue you're missing the whole entire reason to be in metal in the first place, because this album defines guitar album. This album defines thrash album. This album defines metal album. The vocals are chaotic. The guitar solos are going every which direction. Marty Friedman doesn't give a fuck about you. Marty Friedman and Dave Mustaine are dueling track by track by track, it seems, with the lone exception being Dawn Patrol. They're going at it constantly. You don't know what to do. This is 9 tracks of not knowing what to do, but just soak it in, of understanding what's going on, which is a difficult task in and of itself, considering this is an album that is also not a very lengthy affair. This is not an album that's spanning 60 minutes where you're in awe for an hour. This is something that hits you so quickly. This is like a tornado. Yeah, I know there's a song called Tornado Whistles. I understand that. But this album hits you like a tornado, like a pure whirlwind that just blows by so quickly whenever you listen to it that you can't soak it all in at once. You still find little things the next time you listen to it. The replay value is absolutely out of this world. You can listen to this album for entire days. You can listen to this album for months. This is an album that you can pop on at any moment in your life. This is an album that you can pop on any day of the week, any month of the year, any year in the calendar. And it's like jumping right back in. Welcome back. I'm Rust in Peace. I'm here to kick your fucking ass. How are they able to do this? How? How is this such a perfect record? First off, the songwriting. The songcraft and the songwriting on this album is terrific. 5 stars almost instantaneously. The way in which these things are constructed, there are patterns, but at the same time they're also bending the rules a little bit. You have a song such as Hangar 18 that doesn't have very much in the way of lyrics, and then you have a 3-minute guitar duel outro. How many times does that happen? I mean, in thrash it happens a little bit more often in that second wave. With bands such as Heathen, there's a little bit more of a presence on a lengthier track. However, with an accessible band such as Megadeth, this is not something that you saw all that frequently. And whenever you have a band such as Slayer that's basically blazing through as quickly as they possibly can, this was something that was really out of the ordinary. Metallica had slowed down their sound, for the most part. Metallica was slowing it down, so you got that long time frame of a window. However, you didn't get nearly as many riffs per second, so to speak, as you did with Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace just exploded right on you. It was something that they didn't care about speed. They were there to break records. They were there to show you their virtuosity. They were there to show you everything and put it all on the table. Secondly, the musicianship. The musicianship on this album is as good as it's going to get. How they're able to channel this is almost impossible to conjure. This is one of those albums where everything came together and did so at the perfect moment. The band members were at the height of their careers. They were right there at that apex. Experts always talk about how athletes have a certain window in their career where they're their best. Well, this was the window for Megadeth. And man, did they seize the opportunity. This is like Barry Bonds, only there's no steroids. The only thing that they have is a lot of beer, just a lot of booze in general, maybe some drugs, probably some cocaine for as fast as they're going, and just a shit ton of talent. It's mind-blowing. The number of songs that you could cite as legendary is preposterous. You might as well just say the entire album. Even Poison is the Cure, which is widely considered by many to be the weakest song aside from Dawn Patrol, which is just an introduction to Rust in Peace Polaris, the last track on the album, is damn solid. Why? Because it channels back the old days. It harkens back the origins of Megadeth. With Killing Is My Business, it harkens back on those days with the way in which you have the speed metal going on. It's a really old school style. In the midst of all of this really refined, produced, very well done, very well constructed chaos, they were able to channel back all the way to the Killing Is My Business days with this particular song and do it flawlessly, seamlessly, almost like this was the core group that did that particular album, their first album. It's insane to think that it's the same band. Finally, impact. The impact on metal is still felt today. Rust in Peace is widely considered to be one of the best albums of all time, but I'm willing to go one step further. There is a good possibility, there is a strong possibility that Rust in Peace by Megadeth is the best metal record of all time. Some of you guys have clamored for me to do a top 50. Well, I don't have to now. Number 1, Rust in Peace by Megadeth. Why is this? Consider everything. Consider the way that this perfect storm came together. Consider your history. Consider what Dave Mustaine has been to metal. Consider what this relationship was between Metallica and Megadeth. Rust in Peace took the diversity that Master of Puppets gave to listeners and said, you know what? I can make a better album and I can do it without doing all of that. My band's good enough doing what we were doing. We didn't have to change anything. We didn't have to over-diversify. We didn't have to semi-simplify. We didn't have to carve out lengthy 8-minute-long anthems that are somehow able to escape the radio edits. No, instead, what are we able to do? What are we able to accomplish? We're able to crank out songs where the maximum length is 6 minutes. We're able to dish out as many riffs as humanly possible. We're able to keep your attention for a short period of time and make it feel even shorter. The reason why the time feels so short, ladies and gentlemen, is because there's not a flaw here. There's nothing here that is holding you back from listening to the remainder of the record. This is the type of thing that if you were taking a 24-hour road trip and all that you had was Rust in Peace locked into a cassette player deck because your car sucks, you would enjoy each and every second of that 24-hour period. Bar none. I don't have to give this album a score, because I just gave it the highest accolade I can give any album. This is something that I probably could have never determined until this year. I could not have determined this until I found a Rust in Peace tape in my yard. A cassette tape. It was not until I was able to stick that thing into the cassette player in my car and listen to it as I'm driving. And just drive. And just drive. Have nothing else to do. Just drive and listen and understand. And understand why this album is so important. All I can say to you guys is that if you don't feel the same way, I understand. However, I encourage you, I plead to you, to listen to this album one more time. To put it in your CD player, to put it in your cassette deck, to bring it up on your computer. Listen to it again, and revel in its majesty. Consider your history. Consider what they were able to create. And consider what music was about to become. Consider what grunge was about to do. I love grunge, don't get me wrong. But Megadeth's Rust in Peace tops it all. Listen to it again, folks. And stay tuned for the next album review in this series.